So this is not really something to learn from as far as learning content. What I want to do is just use it as an example of splitting the words into their parts and then learning the meanings of those parts just to show how frequently that can be done. Because I think it's a lot more frequently than some people might think. And it can be very helpful. So I have these random words here that I just put down, and I'm gonna open my Pathoma and just flip through, and just split random words into their parts with hyphens. So, okay, hemoglobin means heme plus protein. So, hemo means heme, globin means protein. I think of it mnemonic, a glob of protein. It's really helpful to know that because it just comes up in different themes that root, and it's helpful. But yeah, it helps me to always remember that, like, I don't know, it's just helpful. Yeah. Oh yeah, what it helps me remember is that with the anemias, certain anemias where it's like a production problem, problem with producing hemoglobin, I know that literally it's either going to be a problem with heme or a problem with the globin. So it's a problem with heme. The main component of heme is iron. So that's like the iron deficiency anemia of chronic disease, that pair. Versus if it's a problem with the globin, that means the problem's with the protein. It's with the globin, not the heme. In other words, it's a problem with the protein, not the iron. In other words, it's going to be the things where you're not making those proteins that you need. So it's going to be like thalassemias. It can be the alpha and beta thalassemia, or it can be hemoglobin S and hemoglobin C. So like sickle cell kind of situations, and those are the globinopathies. So splitting this word is very helpful because it's going to either be a problem with literally this part of the word or this part of the word. And it's helpful to know that. Why is it black like this? Yeah, good. Okay, thalassemia. So thallus means blue, like the ocean. I don't remember how I used to remember that mnemonic because I just like know it now, but emia means blood. That one is actually extremely important. Maybe I'll underline the important ones. Yeah, emia is super important. Globin is super important. So blue blood, those are the thalassemias, right? The protein problems I was talking about before. Macrophage, big eater, or big eat, right? So these are giant, monstrous immune cells that all they do is eat things and then digest them. The eating is what we call phagocytosis, which I should put that down too if I'm going to say it. Phagocytosis equals eat cell condition. It's the condition of eating a cell. Osis is a really important word. It means condition, which means it means nothing, but it's just nice to know it. So these macrophages are big eaters. They eat germs and then they digest them. The digestion is what we call the oxidation or whatever, ROS, all that stuff to like grind up the germ inside it and kill it. And they have lysosomes and all that stuff. I can used to say this in more detail, but it's fine. Neutrophil means neutral lover. Neutral as in no color. It's not red, it's not blue. It's neutral, so it's a white cell, white lover. So it's neutrophile, right? Phile is the actual word, but they shorten it to phil. Eosinophil means red lover. Basophil means a base lover. These are opposites, so the opposite of base must be acid, and the opposite of red must be blue. So you know the parts that even the name doesn't say, because if you learn them as a pair. So that is a versus technique, not an equals technique that is used there. Platelets, thrombocytopenia means thrombus, which means clot. Thrombus cell lacking. Penia means aging or lacking. And that's what Boyer told us. Aging sucks, penia. Great mnemonic for important word root. Thrombocytopenia is when they lack thrombus cells. And what are thrombus cells? It's a word that just means platelet. Because those are the cells that are the initial players that start the formation of a thrombus. They don't finish it off, but they start it. So they're called thrombus cells. The things that do the secondary part of forming a thrombus are not cells, they're proteins. They're coagulation factors. So that's why it's not confusing for them to call platelets thrombus cells. Even though it's like, hey, platelets don't form thrombus, they form a platelet plug, primary. And then after that, you get the secondary, which is where you form the actual thrombus. Yeah, but that's done by coag factors, which are proteins, not cells. So that's why thrombocyte is referring to platelets. It's not referring to coag factors. It probably don't make sense if you don't already know it, but just for example. Idiopathic means idiot. Pathic. In other words, it means don't know. Idiot doesn't know stuff. Disease. So idiopathic means a disease that we don't know the cause. Idiot. So, the word roots actually are what they look like a lot of the time. Achalasia means no swallowing condition. The ia or zia kind of just means nothing. It means condition. It's another version of osis. But remember, I say no chalice. Why? Because a chalice is a cup that you can drink. You can drink from it. Yeah, see? Chalice is a cup. So swallowing, drinking, right? So chalice means drink. Chalice equals drinking. So achalasia means no drinking. A means no. That's a super important one. Root. Hepatitis. This is the king of all important ones. Itis means inflammation. The most important thing. On the Boondocks, they say, I got the itis. Oh, I mean, that's not really from the Boondocks, but I don't know why I just think of that. But yeah, when I eat too much, I got the itis, but it's not related. But anyways, itis means inflammation. That's extremely important since the whole foundation of all pathology, basically in medicine, the two biggest camps are inflammation versus neoplasia. So this is literally 1/2 almost of all your pathology. So very important. And the word itis, that's the root for it. Pyelonephritis means pelvis, kidney inflammation. So it's inflammation of the kidney's pelvis, which is always caused by an infection that ascended up into that pelvis. That's why it's specific to the pelvis, because it's an ascending infection. Okay, now do the examples from just adding more random words, just as example. And maybe I won't overtalk it so much. Hyperplasia equals what? Too much growth. Plasia means growth. So I'll put something here. Plasia equals plastic, right? Plastic. That's referring to like shape, structure, growth. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like a vibe, like plasticate. If you plasticate something, you're like forming it and stuff. You're kneading it. It has to do with the growth. It has to do with the shape. So yeah, plasia means growth. Hypertrophy also means too much growth, but what's the difference? That's like a general pathology theme. So hyperplasia is real growth, like cell division. It means that there's more cells, whereas hypertrophy means growth as in getting stronger. It's when the cells grow bigger. So one of these, it's literally quantity versus quality. So now we're doing a versus, right? And that's how we remember these things, because you need to know the difference between these similar things. That's versus. So hyperplasia is the cells increase in number. Hypertrophy is when the cells increase in size. Even though the word quality doesn't exactly perfectly demonstrate the word size, I don't care, because I'm fitting into my overarching mantra that I already use for other things to make it easy on myself. That's another technique, mantra. So I'm going to call it quantity over quality. That's how I do that. And then atrophy, A means no, so that's no growth. Okay, so it's getting repetitive now, so I'll flip somewhere else. Metaplasia will mean what? A changed growth. Meta means to change. It's like meta learning means learning how to learn, changing how you learn. Metaplasia is when it's now changed to a different type of cell that's being grown. Dysplasia, I'll put that because that's important, equals abnormal growth. Abnormal growth. I'll put also dysmenorrhea. Why? because this can mean abnormal or bad. I like to say bad. But it can also, which is a very general term, right? But it could also mean painful. So it has two meanings depending on the context. Painful, menses, flow. This is another important one. Rhea, anything with the two R means flow. So you have diarrhea, which means across flow. It's the poop is flowing extremely aggressively across your anus. You have other things. Rhinorrhea, right? Rhino means nose because a rhino is named for the big horn on its nose. Rhino equals rhino horn, obviously first thought, equals nose. Makes sense. Nose flow. So this is when somebody has a runny nose. Rhinorrhea. Steatorrhea. This is fat flow. So this is fatty diarrhea, right? This steato meaning fatty. So another word come to mind, lipoma, which means lipid, tumor. Oma is another extremely important word. We said the most important categories in pathology are inflammation versus neoplasia. So oma means tumor, it's neoplasia. Itis means inflammation. The thing that's valuable here is that itis does not necessarily mean infection. Actually, it doesn't mean infection. It means inflammation. Even though pyelonephritis, that word is talking about an infection, the literal meaning of the word is inflammation that just in that case happens to be caused by an infection. A lot of the time, itis is inflammation that's not caused by an infection. Inflammation can be caused by two things. It can be caused by a microbe, so infection, or it can be caused by your body just doing it out of stupidity, which is called immune or hypersensitivity. And it's that kind of inflammation. So those are the two types of inflammation, two causes. So that's why language is important, because it's specific. Things don't just automatically mean something else that's similar. What's another thing? Adenocarcinoma. Adeno means gland. That's another very valuable word root. Carcino means malignant, but it's epithelium. And then oma means tumor, of course. Why did I put that? Because there's also sarcoma, right? So let's say let's say liposarcoma. So the carcino means malignant. The sarc also means malignant. But what's the difference? The difference is that carcino is malignant epithelium, whereas sarc is malignant connective tissue. No, sorry, I should say flesh. What's flesh? Flesh is my own nickname. Why? Because sarc can refer to two things. It can be connective tissue or it can be muscle. But, I mean, they put that under one word and then they don't give us a term to freaking group them together. So, of course, I'm going to make my own nickname for it. Flesh. So, in histology, you have 3 layers. You have an empty lumen, which is not a layer, so that's going to be number 0. That's just empty space. The first layer is epithelium, the second is connective tissue, and the third is muscle. And basically, every single organ in the body, loosely 9 times out of 10, follows this exact same structure all the time, no matter what. So when you look at histology image, you look for the empty space first. Look for the lumen, then just look at whatever thing is touching that. That's automatically going to be your epithelium. Then you know that under the epithelium is always going to be connective tissue. Why? Because the epithelium is the main character of histology. So much so that I can even delete this muscle and not even care about it, and we don't care about that. The two guys, and this is not even a theme, this is just empty space, so I'm going to get rid of lumen. The whole yin and yang of histology is epithelium versus connective tissue. Epithelium is the actual surface lining that's actually doing something. It's secreting stuff. It's secreting mucus. It's diffusing, letting things diffuse through it. It's actually doing something, versus the connective tissue is just this random filler crap that's underneath the epithelium. And what's its job? It's to connect the epithelium to whatever is on the other side, which is usually going to be muscle, right? Its job is to connect something else. Its job is to support something else. So you always have, under the epithelium, you always have his little sidekick, the connective tissue, supporting him, right? So it's literally like when you buy an Amazon package and they put styrofoam in there just to fill up space. Or they put the little styrofoam bubbles in the little bubble wrap to fill up space. That's what connective tissue is. It's not an actual thing that does something. It's just filling up space. So yes, that's very important. So basically connective tissue and also muscle, but who cares? Let's just focus on the main guy of this group. Connective tissue, that's sarc. So carcinoma or carcino versus, actually carcin versus sarc is epithelium versus connective tissue. That's the versus. They're both malignant, right? So that's not part of the versus because that's not what makes them different, even though that is part of what that word root means. Okay. What else? Hypoxia. Let's do that one now. Hypoxia. Hyper means what? Sorry, it's not hyper. So this is hypo. Boom. So you have to know where to put the freaking hyphen. This is a good example of something where you have to spell it differently for it to actually make sense. Right? This O belongs to both sides of the word. So when I put the hyphen there, I could put it there, but I could also put it there, right? So the best solution is when I write it like this with two O's. Hypo and oxia, right? Why? Because, because hypo means too little. It's the opposite of hyper, which is too much. Ox means oxygen. Ia is like osis or sia, right? It's just a meaningless word that just means condition. It's basically just grammar. So, because they don't want to say hypox. So it's just there for grammar. So hypoxia means too little oxygen condition. The condition of having too little oxygen. What's it referring to? It's referring to the end goal, the tissues. The tissues of the body, which means literally all the body parts and all the cells, don't have enough oxygen. The tissue, as opposed to what? Why would I specify that? It's because it's opposed to something else, always. That's what versus means. As opposed to what? As opposed to the blood. So it's hypoxemia. The word emia, that word was very important, right? It refers to the blood. So now it's hypoxemia. It equals too little oxygen, specifically in the blood. So this versus hypoxia versus hypoxemia equals what? Equals tissue versus blood. Equals tissue versus blood. That's a very important distinction, and you can keep messing that up literally forever. You can like be in medical school doing your thing and be like, what? Why is this explanation not making sense? Because they're telling you hypoxia and you're thinking that they're saying hypoxemia. So if you pay attention to those roots, it saves you from that. Why is blood versus tissue such a significant distinction? Why do these words exist, right? Why do these two contrasting words exist? Yeah, because for random chance, just for fun. No, it's because of a reason. The reason is this extremely important concept, which is that you are your blood. Your blood is the most important thing in the whole body. That's why at Brody and probably every other school, and also in the pathology book and everything else, the first organ system they're going to teach is heme. Always. Heme, blood. Because your blood is the only organ system that affects every single other organ system. Your blood delivers nutrients and oxygen to the tissues. So, think about it. Every single organ system that you're going to learn in class can be lumped all into one category called tissue. Oh, jeez, I forgot that I stepped away from this thing. Hopefully it's picking up the sound. Every single organ system in your body can be lumped into one category called tissue, except for one. The only one that's unique and special and cannot be lumped into that category is blood. Blood is a thing that feeds your tissues. Blood is the thing that spreads throughout your whole body to your tissues. Anything that gets into your blood is going to get into your whole body. When a bacteria gets into your blood, that's called bacteremia. That means now the bacteria is going to go to your whole entire body. It's not just in your lung, it's not just in your stomach, it's not just in your whatever. It's now going to your whole body, and that's called sepsis, a systemic infection. See how important the blood is. When you have low oxygen in your blood, your whole body is now not going to get enough oxygen, right? So when you have hypoxemia, that is going to cause hypoxia because the blood determines what happens to the tissues. So that emia is super important because the blood is literally the most important thing ever. Anytime you do organ systems and they're teaching you these tracts, what I like to say is that the tracts are not part of your body. The blood is part of your body. You might have heard that the GI tract is technically not part of your body because it's continuous with the outside world. That means the beginning of your GI tract is an open hole, your mouth. The end of it is an open hole, your anus. And all the way through it is just empty space. So when food goes inside your mouth, it's not inside your body. That's why you can just spit it right back out. It's not inside your body. It's not part of you, right? It's like putting something in a bag. It's not actually part of the bag. It's just like in there. You can spit it out. It goes through the tube and the tract, your freaking esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus, and then it goes into the toilet. So it literally is not part of your body. The only part that actually became part of your body, part of you, part of your tissues, part of your organs, was the part that absorbed into your blood from the tract. So your blood is you, and this GI tract that you're learning about in physiology is not you. So the framework in GI physiology is blood versus the lumen, like the GI lumen. My nickname for it is blood versus food. And you're learning all about all these different things diffusing and going back and forth between those two realms, between blood and lumen. Anytime, this is important, the word absorption, people mix it up with secretion. Anytime anything goes into your blood, that's called absorption. Absorption means to the blood because absorption means to take it into yourself, right? And you are what? You are your blood. Your blood is you. So when something is being absorbed into you, that means it's being absorbed into your blood. Anything that's going out of the blood instead of to the blood, it doesn't matter where it's going. That's not absorption. That is automatically the opposite of absorption, which is secretion, to get rid of it. Your blood is you. So if it's going to your GI tract, that's secreting it out. If it's going from blood to air, which means it's going from your bloodstream to your alveoli, that's for you to breathe it out, secreting it out. If it's talking about the renal tract now instead, that's blood versus pee, right? If it's going from your blood to the tubular lumen for you to pee it out, that is secretion, right? If it goes from the tubule into your blood, that's absorption. So it's always blood versus lumen, whether that lumen is respiratory, whether that lumen is renal, or whether that lumen is GI. The one little caveat or whatever is that on the back end of that, when your blood like flows to your fat cells or whatever and drops things off there, you're going to be like, well, that's part of me too, or whatever. But you don't like talk about that. You don't think about that. It's not like something you really focus on. So you don't need a framework for it. So overall, the idea is your blood is you. And you learn about all of these tracts that are not actually part of you. They're continuous with the outside world. And it's helpful to have that simplified and have that dichotomy in your head. Necrosis. Osis means what? Condition. Necro means what? Death. So death condition. It's a condition of something dying and rotting. And it's a very nasty word. Let's get some more random words. Amyloid. This is maybe not the best one, but whatever. I want to show that it can be done with pretty much any term. Amyloid. Oid means like. This is actually a very important word root. Oid means it's not that thing, it's like that thing. It means it's a mimic or an imitation. For instance, humanoid means they're not human. They are something that has that is similar to a human, that is like a human, right? So it can be a robot having an appearance or character resembling that of a human. It can be a humanoid robot. The fact that it has arms and legs, that means that it's human. What's going on? Yeah, see? Don't make me look weird. Good, that's what I'm watching. It's not conservative talking point or whatever. Anyways, humanoid, right? It can be an alien, right? Like a humanoid alien. That's like an alien that has, arms and leg and walk on two legs like a human. So oid means that you're not the thing. You're just like the thing, right? So amyloid actually means it's like amylin. That's what I think it means anyway. This actually is not very meaningful, but I don't care. I'm using it as an example. The oid thing is usually very meaningful though. What's amylin? This is another very important word root that I forgot to mention. In means, ooh, this is so good. In means protein. This is so insanely important. So amyl protein. So when they name things, so globin, right? I said globin means protein, right? But the thing is, like, it's the in part that really makes it mean that, right? That's a more general term, globin. It's just protein in general. But then if they say anything in, that's protein. So let's talk about, can't even freaking think of one. Amylin is a protein that's like, has to do with sugar or something. Yeah, the amy means sugar. Yeah, good. Cardiolipin is this thing. It's a protein that has to do with like heart and fat or something. There's literally so many examples, I'm just not thinking of them, which is really weird. No, now I want to. Renin, good. Renin. Yup, it's a protein. It's an enzyme, which is a type of protein. Normally, enzymes end in what? Ase. Lipase, what does that mean? It means fat enzyme, but if you want to get more specific about function, because ase always means enzyme, but enzymes often break things down. So ase often means breaker. Lipase is something that breaks down or degrades fat. Good. Now that will apply to like everything. Glucosidase, right? That's a sugar breaker. Sugar, glucose is sugar. The ate is just whatever. And then the ase is breaker. Sugar enzyme or sugar breaker. Right? Good. Renin. It has in, so you know that it's a protein. The ren is like ras and all that stuff. Whatever. Protein. We know that it's a type of protein. So hematin is probably a thing. Yup. Hematin is a blood protein. Hematin. Blood protein. Here's the actual important one. Ferritin. Iron protein. It's a storage form of iron. Yep, ferritin is a protein that stores iron. Some of these things, it doesn't matter that they're proteins, so I never knew they were, but I know just because of the name. That's why I'm looking it up and saying, yup, because I confirmed it. Anyways, the point is, for this, I actually do a thing where it's not about the real meaning, it's about, I split it up differently for my mnemonic. So ferritin, I say that it's a tin can full of iron. A tin can of iron, right? Because it's a tin can storing iron. That's for me to connect the word ferritin to the word storing. So in my mnemonic, it really means iron storage, right? I don't care about the fact that it's a protein because that's the important thing. So what's the point of this little pun that I did here? This use of this technique of splitting the word? This is hyphen not for the sense of getting the literal Latin meaning. It's hyphen for the sense of connecting the word to the meaning that I have to know. The only keyword that's important with ferritin is the word storage, right? That's the only important thing. So ferrous means iron in general, right? But tin is the unique part. So I say this tin can of iron that stores iron. The point of that is just that when I see the word tin at the end of ferric, I need to know that it's iron storage. It's not the other types of iron. It's not ferric, it's not ferrous, it's not all the other stuff, okay? Good. Yeah, so the protein thing is very cool. If it ends in it's a protein. That's just very valuable to know. Hemoglobin, right, all that stuff. So, what are some other words? Cyclooxygenase. right? Cyclooxygen enzyme. Or we could say, I think it works in this case. Actually, it doesn't. This doesn't break things down. It creates things. So it's not a cyclooxygen breaker. It's just enzyme. So A sometimes means breaker, but it always means enzyme. What does a cyclo mean? I don't know. Doesn't matter. We just call it COX anyway. So breaking down, hyphenating, and paying attention to the Latin roots doesn't always like tell you everything, or it's not always that meaningful or helpful. But the habit of always doing it is very valuable because that's the only way that you notice it when it is helpful, which is very, very, very frequently that it's helpful. Very frequently that it's helpful. What's another term? Vasodilation equals vessel dilation, right? Pretty easy. Versus vasoconstriction. But still worth paying attention to. Easy things people can still overlook it. Leukocytes, let's do it, good. Versus lymphocytes. Oh, I'm getting it mixed up. Oh, yeah, that's what I used to do too. That's because I didn't pay attention that leuko means white. White cells, that literally means white cells. So of course it's talking about your white blood cells. All your immune cells are white blood cells. This is not a specific term, it's a very general term. Very general term. Versus lymphocyte is referring to, that means lymph cells. Your lymph is that freaking sewage white stuff that flows in your body. And really, if we want to get more practical and useful about it, it's referring to your lymph node cells. The cells that hang out in your lymph nodes are only your B cells and T cells. T cells, I put more thymus, but whatever, right? That lymph node is a specialized thing. It only has B and T cells. Lymphocyte means they're talking about B and T cells, nothing else. That's a very specific term. Specific. Whereas leukocytes is the exact opposite. It's an extremely general term. It's talking about your white cells. That means literally all of your immune cells are in that category. Very general versus very specific. Oh, I already knew that. Okay, yeah, you're supposed to know that, but it's not just knowing it. It's that don't get it mixed up. When we highlight how opposite they are to each other, that keeps it very distinct and separate in our mind to not be messing it up in a crucial moment. Or even just messing it up constantly in non-crucial moments, and then it's making you, slowing you down and getting it annoying. Let's do agammaglobulinemia. It means no gamma proteins, right? Globulin means protein. Globulin means protein. Like just like globin means protein, same thing. In the blood, right? Blood's so important. They have no gamma proteins in the blood. What does gamma protein mean? Gamma globulin just means antibody, right? Gamma globulin is another word for immuno. It's the exact perfect synonym for immunoglobulin. There's no immunoglobulin. There's no difference between them. Immunoglobulin means Ig, which means antibody. So they have no antibodies in the blood. Big fat word. It's a very important word too. It's a very juicy, big disease that we talk about a lot. Ooh, this is a good example. Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. So these guys name these things after themselves, and it's like, okay, I guess you have to like let them or whatever, because like they need credit or whatever. But it's like they put their useless names, and I used to get pissed off as a kid. Why do you put your name? That's not helping me know what's going on. This is so stupid and annoying. Well, this is what's good about hyphen technique. There's no reason to limit it to actual words that actually have meanings, right? So I split this word as well. Wiskott-Aldrich, I put my hyphen here and here. I'm always splitting things up. It doesn't matter whether it's a real word that actually splits up or if it's just somebody's name. It doesn't matter. I'm splitting things up. So Wiskott-Aldrich, right? Okay, so what have I done now? I have these four parts that I can turn into where's clot all rich. Where's clot all rich. The whole point of this disease is you're only supposed to remember a triad of three things. They have thrombocytopenia, which means they can't clot. um, all rich. They have like skin problems, so they have like eczema or something. Which on the test I don't need to know that's eczema. When I see this triad and it has, as long as I remember it's something to do with skin, I'm gonna get it right. And then they're always sick. Right? So always sick. Right? They have recurrent infections. So I say, where's your clot? You're supposed to be, oh, sorry, no. Where's your clot? You're supposed to be rich, but you're always sick and your skin looks like crap. So the point is like, the idea is like the where's clot part is telling me, they can't clot, right? It's thrombocytopenia. The all part is telling me they're always sick. And then the freaking rich part is telling me like you're rich. You're supposed to be rich. You're always bragging that you're rich, right, boy? So you should be having good skincare. But instead your skin looks horrible, always peeling off and having eczema. Sorry to all the people with eczema, but it's just really mnemonic. So I used to actually, it wasn't even like that. It was like, where's your clot? You're supposed to be all rich and stuff, but you look like crap. That's the skin thing. And you're always sick. But then I put the always under this always sick to make it more like regimented and easy to remember. Clotting, infections, eczema. So it's that triad. That's the only thing you're supposed to know about Wiscott Aldridge. And it comes up and it's high yield. And so I split up the guy's freaking useless name that doesn't like have any meaning, and I make it useful by hyphenating. So the hyphen even is helpful even when the thing that we're dealing with doesn't actually split up. It doesn't matter. I will force it to split up. I split it up on my own. It's actually very helpful. It's even for something like this, Vactorel, right? This is just random letters for each of the freaking like symptoms. Even this I'll hyphenate. Why? Because out of all of them, the tracheoesophageal, the T and the E are the only two letters that are not their own thing. They go together. So this V is for vertebral defects. This is like a syndrome of congenital disorders that come together. The A is for anal stuff, right? Anus problem. The C is for cardio. The T is for tracheoesophageal fistula. So it's like they put two letters for like one thing. So they're together. R is for renal, and then L is for limb defects. So I put these TE together, and that allows me to split the rest of the thing into two parts. It's just less overwhelming. It's only two things to remember on this side, and only three things to remember on this side. 2 and 3 are good numbers because 2 is a versus, and then 3 can be a triangle, which is just a versus with an odd man out. Black versus white with gray as the odd man out, right? That's a triangle. So that's good. The other thing is that it's Vactorel versus charge. The thing you have to differentiate it from is charge. And charge has this A, which means atresia in the middle. So now it makes it even a good comparison because this guy has a like atresia thing in the middle because the tracheoesophageal fistula always is accompanied by esophageal atresia. So this is one type of atresia. This is another type of atresia. It's choanal atresia. So even when there's not an actual literal meaning to the different parts of the word, the hyphen technique is such a useful thing to do with language because it breaks things down into smaller pieces. I can compare and contrast. I can create relationships between them. I can handle them. It's bite-sized. It's just a very, very, very good habit. Let's do endocarditis. Endocarditis equals inner heart inflammation, right? Card is for cardio, right? So there's layers of the heart. Endocarditis, what does endocard really mean? What it really literally means is valve. So endocarditis, not talking about some vague, random, whatever inner layer. It's just talking about heart valves. But heart valves are the inner layer of the heart. That's how you remember it. As opposed to the myocarditis, which is inflammation of the muscle layer of the heart, right? The heart muscle. And then there's the other thing, pericarditis, which is inflammation of the pericardium, the outer layer of the heart. But peri doesn't even mean outer. Peri actually means around. So it's not part of the heart. It's something that is peripheral peripheral to the heart, something that is around the heart. It's a sac that is around the heart to protect it, right? Peripheral, right? The word root is there for a reason. That's why we say peripheral. It means around. So that's another helpful one. Even anemia, even a simple word like that. Oh, it's just a short word. I don't need to split it. No, it still splits. It means an means the same thing as a, right? It means no. They just add the n for grammar. Emia means blood. So anemia means no blood. That's what literally it means. And then that's a translation. And then the actual meaning is a lack of red blood cells. A lack of red blood cells. Let's do this random thing. Lymphocytic sialadenitis. Yeah, I remember this. This tripped me up. Hyphen right there. Hyphen here? No, here. Adeno means something. Adeno is a very important one. It means gland. So, and then itis. So what is this? This is lymph cell saliva gland inflammation. So it's a saliva gland being inflamed because of lymph cells, inflamed by lymph cells. So Cial is saliva, that's not so hard. And then adeno, that's gland, that's the part that can be hard. So gotta focus on it. I mean, it's not hard, but that's the part that's like helpful. I mean, to remember everything else. Fibroblast. Fibroblast equals connective tissue, baby. So a blast means a baby cell. So if you have like, I don't even remember, like some cell and then you have a blast, the blast is like the baby version of that cell. So like erythroblast means red baby. It's an immature cell. So it's not an erythrocyte. It's not a red cell. It's a red baby that will grow into a red cell, right? Versus. So fibroblast is like one of the few scenarios where the blast, it's like maybe the only scenario where the blast doesn't mature into something else, some other kind of cell. The way I think of it is that fibroblasts, their job is to create scar. Scar is made of connective tissue. This is important. So fibro, which means fibers, that means connective tissue, but it also means scar because connective tissue and scar are the same thing basically. Scar is just when your body makes more connective tissue to scar something over, right? Connective tissue proper to scar something over. So it's like, why do they call it a baby? We kind of don't need to. It should just be called a fibrocyte. But I think it's because it's like building and creating new scar. So it's like a baby because it's like maybe not like growing into something else, the cell, but the cell is like growing into new scar. Just like a osteoblast is a bone builder. So even though it literally means bone baby, the better word or nickname for it is a bone builder. Just like a fibroblast is a scar builder. Okay, the blast language is being used the same exact way in these two cases. Fibroblast versus osteoblast. If I said osteoblast versus with no context, of course you wouldn't be thinking about this stuff. What you should be saying is osteoclast, right? Because that's a bone breaker, the exact opposite of a bone builder. Literally the exact same word, but it's B versus C. Clash sounds like clash, like you're clashing and destroying something, right? So that helps remember that it's breaking. The other thing that helps is just literally know that's the opposite of this. They literally sound the same. It's a versus. And so when we know one is builder, the other one automatically is breaker. We don't have to actually remember it. Yep. Even something like regeneration. Oh, that's just a normal word. I don't need to split that up. No, it splits up. Gen. So, re means what? Again, right? Repeat, right? Repeat. So, again, gen means what? Oh, generate. It means generate. Yeah, no, but what does generate mean? Gen is a very important word root. It's derived from Genesis, from the Bible. What does Genesis mean in the Bible? Genesis means creation, right? That's why that is the first book of the Bible. It's the first. It's the precursor that creates everything else. And it is about the creation story. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So gen, it's a very important word. It means creation. It's a very big word root in medicine and all these different words we use. The origin of something. Origin, precursor. Good. Just like blast is like the baby version, Genesis is the precursor version, the original version that turns into the final product. Why am I focusing on that so much? Fibrinogen. Fibrinogen. That is the precursor to fibrin because it's literally fibrin and gen. Oh, yeah. And fibrin means what? That splits into what? It has in at the end. So that is literally a scar protein. It's a protein that makes up scar. There's one exception to this. Collagen. Collagen. It's a bad spelling. It should actually be spelled collagen because it's not actually gen as in Genesis. Collagen is just a protein that makes up connective tissue. So they make it end in just like all the other proteins, but they spell it badly with an E. It's kind of like honestly a mistake in how they freaking name it. Scar protein. Fibrin equals scar protein. And then fibrinogen means it's the fibrin genesis, right? The fibrin origin, or if you want to say the real science word, the fibrin precursor is the word that I was going to use. So if it says whatever, I can't think of something right now. P-fibrin, that's not a real word, but that's basically how they use the language. That means fibrin precursor. It means the exact same thing as fibrinogen. So sometimes they'll say pre, sometimes they'll say pro, and sometimes they will say gen. They're all the exact same thing. It's just different grammar of saying it, and different words will use different versions of that, but it means the same thing. It means precursor. So it's so helpful. Glycogen, right? That's the sugar or glucose, right? A glyco precursor or the glyco origin. So we can change out the glucose origin. That's what it means. Gluconeogenesis. Long word, right? No. It's 3 short words. Glucose, new, creation. It means to create new sugar. Gluconeogenesis. It brings another thing to mind. Lipolysis. Lyse means to destroy. Lipolysis means fat lysing condition. Yeah, lyse. Lyse means what? Break down, destroy, kill. Like hemolysis, blood breaking. Right? Bilirubin, let's do that. Oh, I thought that's just one word. No, everything splits. Bilirubin means Billy. Rubor, protein. Rubor means red. So bilirubin, even though it's like, bilirubin, it comes from your blood because bilirubin is the red pigment that makes your blood cells look red. So that's why it has rubor in the name. It's a pigment. What does the billy part mean? I don't actually know. I'm going to ask my etymology chat on ChatGPT because I don't know these things by magic. I have my etymology chat that I use. That's how I learn these, and then once I know them, I can remember them. What's going on? Okay, that's really annoying. Anyways, I don't use my iPad, so you guys can't see it. Anyways, maybe I'll do that in another video. Bilirubin, bile, red pigment, exactly. The billy refers to bile. That was kind of obvious, but I had a brain fart, so yeah. I was like, is it actually bile, or is it just me thinking that because it sounds like it? Yeah, good. Okay. Even repair. Repair. That's an easy word. I don't need to split that. No. Repair means again, pair. Right? When you break things apart, you break them into two To repair them means to pair them again. To pair them again. To take two things that were broken into separate and put them back together into one. That's what it means to repair. Which is even what we're doing with equals and versus. Versus, you split two things apart, lysis, and then, that lets you know they're both a part of this. They're both the two sides of this one category, and so that lets you repair them together, pair them in your head. Let's do micro staphylococcus. The staphylo just means nothing. I mean, it's good for mnemonics. It means staff. As far as we're concerned, it means staff. And then coccus means balls, right? Versus bacillus, which means rods. Okay. Keloid. Oid means what? It means it's like something. So this means keel-like. What does keel mean? I don't know. I don't really care. But it still shows that the words can be split if I wanted it to. Keloid means tumor-like scar. The keel means tumor or swelling, just like oma. Am I going to remember that? No, I don't need to. Keloid is just a giant scar. I didn't need the parts to remember it, but, it's just there. Neoplasia, right? Which doesn't necessarily mean cancer. Neoplasia splits into two sides, benign versus malignant. Benign is not cancer. Malignant is cancer. So neoplasia doesn't technically mean cancer, but, it has to do with... It contains cancer within it as a concept. What does it mean? New growth. And that's why it can be cancer, because cancer is a new growth. You can have a benign new growth, that's not a big deal, or a malignant new growth, that is a big deal, and that's when we call it cancer. Good. Carcinogenesis. Okay, that one should be easy for us now, right? Carcino means what? Malignant. Specifically, epithelial malignancy. But the main point is that it's malignant. That's the important part. And genesis means what? Creation. So, and actually, it's the gen that's really like the, means creation. Gen is the important part. The essis is the same as osis, right? Our common word root that means condition. So this means the condition of creating cancer. The condition part doesn't really matter ever though, right? It's just grammar. The point is that carcinogenesis means creating cancer. Words go backwards, not forwards, a lot of times. So we read this part, then this part when we're trying to say the meaning. Oncogenes. Onco means cancer. Gene means what? Gen. Ooh, yeah, because genes are the things that create you. They're your DNA. They're the, starting point of all creation of life. So it means cancer genes. But the reason we call them genes is because of DNA is the language of creation. What else? Flipping. There's transcription. Put a thing right there. Script means what? To write. Trans means what? Across. So across script means to write. The script is the important part. Scribe. It's like a scribe. It means to write across. So we're writing from DNA to RNA. And then translate. And I know we already know these terms, but this is about the language, the hyphen technique. Translation means to translate. It means to translate one type of thing into another type of thing. DNA and RNA are kind of the same type of thing because they're both nucleic acid. They're in that category. But when you turn nucleic acid into protein, in other words, when you turn mere words into an actual physical product, that is translation. You translated it into something. Actually, that's worth saying now. Every single thing in your body basically is made of protein. It's like all the things are protein, and then fat and sugar are just like, it's like 10% fat and sugar, 90% protein. I don't know or care if those numbers have any accuracy at all. It's just like the vibe I'm trying to get across. Like, you have all these proteins: collagen, fibrin, hematin, ferritin, hemoglobin, bilirubin, right? Proteins. Right? Ferroportin, right? In protein. Yeah. Whereas fat is just a storage form of energy, and sugar is just energy. So sugar and fat are just things you burn. And then DNA is just like the instructions for proteins. DNA is not an actual thing. If your job is to be a carpenter and make like bookshelves, DNA is not the bookshelf. DNA is just a blueprint that you use when making the bookshelf. So DNA is like nothing. It's just like the idea of it. It's not the actual thing. Proteins are the things that your body creates, and they are the building blocks of like literally everything in your body. So proteins are products, DNA are words, and sugar and fat are just fuel to burn. And when you mention those four things, sugar and fat, protein and DNA, those four things are like all the metabolic whatever things in your body. So that's like everything. Okay. Metastasis. Ooh, this one is a little weird if you want to split it, but sure. Metastasis. This is metastasis. Meta means what? Change, right? We know that. Stasis means what? Stop. It means stop. That's what it means. But in this instance, they're saying stop more as position, right? To be stopped in one position. So metastasis means to change where you're stopped, to change position. So it's when the cancer changes position, when it travels from one organ to another. It's metastasized. Histology. Histo means tissue. So this is logy means study. This is the study of tissue. All tissue is made up of what? Epithelium and connective tissue. May or may not have some muscle or parenchyma underneath. Like we said before. Another important word, hemostasis. Since we talk about metastasis, it's called hemostasis. It means blood stopping. So the whole point is to stop blood. Right? Bleed. Stop bleeding. So it means forming clots. It splits into two things: primary versus secondary hemostasis. Primary, you don't form a clot, you form a platelet plug, which is the blueprint for a clot. It's the scaffold that the clot will be built on top of. Secondary hemostasis is where you actually form a clot or a thrombus, right? So it's platelet versus coagulation factors. The drugs are called antiplatelet versus anticoagulation. So coagulation, sometimes the word is used to refer to this whole process of hemostasis, but more specifically, it's talking about the formation of the actual clot, the final product, not the initial scaffold. It's talking about secondary hemostasis, not primary. And that's why the word hemostasis exists, because it's just saying clotting is technically not talking about this whole thing, even though a lot of times it is used to talk about this whole thing. It's technically just refers to this secondary part. So that's why the word hemostasis exists, because it allows you to encapsulate the whole process, including both the primary and secondary processes. Even disorder. Let's do a word that's not actually a science word, but whatever. Let's split that one. Disorder. It means abnormal order. So it's when things are out of order. Things are out of how they're supposed to be in the body. Right? That's a disorder, a disease. Disease. There's a BTS song called Disease. And they put a hyphen there, don't they? Yeah, they put a hyphen there. So now I'm going to force whoever watching this to look at that. Yeah. Right, now we're going on my tangent. Disease, yeah. They split that on purpose. They put a hyphen there because they wanted to get at the meaning of that word. Why do we call it a disease? Because it means you're abnormal ease. You're not at ease. Right, you have bad ease. You're not comforted. You're not having comfort. You're not feeling good. So it just means any ailment, anything that disrupts your comfort, anything that feels bad, technically falls into the literal definition of a disease. That's why it's patient-centered care. If it's bothering your patient, it's a problem. Even if it's like, well, technically you're blah, 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 blah. It's normal, right? That's why it's disease. Okay, now we split this one. I'm going to remove this because I don't care that much. We already know that. Microangiopathic. What does that mean? Microangiopathic. Small vessel. Ooh, this is an important one. I forgot. Angio means blood vessel. It's not talking about blood. It's talking about vessels. So we'll put this so I don't forget. Microangiopathic small vessel disease, right? Path means disease, right? Pathology. So this is when the vessels become too small because of too much clotting, and because of there's not enough space in the vessel, the red blood cells get sheared and broken in half when they try to squeeze through that small space. So it causes hemolysis. So it's called a microangiopathic hemolytic anemia. Super, 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 super important. Beautiful word, because when you see on your MBME, both low red cells and low platelets, low red cells equals what? Anemia. Low platelets equals what? You wasted all your platelets by clotting too much. Thrombocytopenia. When you have both anemia plus thrombocytopenia, instead of having to confuse yourself on the test, saying a billion words in your head, you can just put them together into one word and automatically say microangiopathy. So these terms are good. Language is good. Makes things easier, not harder. How did I learn all these words? No, the words are making it easier for you. Would you rather have to describe everything with random hand signals and like spelling out describing what it looks like? Oh, you know that thing where your blood cells shear through the thing and then all that happens? It's easier just to use the word microangiopathy. So yeah, this is a whole tangent, but yeah, it's can be intimidating, but it's actually helpful to dive into the language. Heme, angioma, blood, vessel, tumor. So heme can actually mean heme, which is like a component of red blood cells, but it usually just means blood in general. That's usually what it's referring to. The angi part is important. We're not talking about blood, we're talking about the blood vessel. Angi means vessel, and it doesn't actually mean blood vessel, it just means vessel. Here it's referring to blood vessels, but it can also be referring to other kind of vessels, right? Vessel means tube, which means duct. They're all the same thing, right? So we can also talk about a cholangitis, right? Which is bile duct. Instead of vessel, we say duct. They're the same thing, though, right? Bile vessel inflammation, bile duct inflammation. Either way, it's talking about a tube. Vessel and duct are both just fancy words for a tube. That's what the angi means. Chol here, what does it mean? It means cholesterol. Bile's made of cholesterol. So what it's really referring to is bile, but the literal translation is cholesterol. Okay, I talked too much and my throat is tired. But yeah, language, so beautiful. Intravascular, this will be the last one, versus extravascular. Inside versus outside the vessel. That's kind of really obvious. I wanted to do intra versus inter, but I don't think of an example right now. But intra means within, whereas inter means between. So it's literally the equals and versus stuff, actually. Inter is like between different, it's like the difference between different concepts. Intra is like within one single concept. Anyways, that's something that they're spelled similar, so people can get it confused. So don't get it confused. Ooh, disseminate. Disseminate. I feel like this word has to do with semen. Like semen, as in semen, as in spreading my seed. Like spreading my seed. Literally like, because that's what disseminate means, spread. Not to, yeah, I just saw that in the pathoma book, so interesting, but I don't know what the dis part is for. Maybe like abnormal semen, so like I'm spreading the seed, or like I'm spreading the seed beyond the normal, like beyond where it was before. I'm like disrupting where my seed is, disseminate. Anyways, I know that's where it come from. I literally know, like, I'm just so sure of it, even though I haven't looked into it. Anyways, yeah, that's enough for today. That's just examples of hyphen. So just my recommendation is to make it a habit. Every single word, split it into the parts. If you don't know it, type it into your etymology chat on ChatGPT, where you make a chat and give it instruction to say, you will break down every word I give you into its roots or whatever and tell me what they mean. And then you quickly just type in a word every time you don't know it. And then instead of wasting time running around the internet trying to figure it out or trying to memorize it and not know what you're looking at, it teaches you the word roots in 1 second. And then over time, at first, you're building the habit. You're putting in like every other word because you're new to this medical terminology. Over time, you're typing in words less and less because when you see new words, you just automatically know what they mean because they're reusing the word roots that you already know. And at this point now, it's a very rare occurrence when I have to type a word into my etymology chat. It's like a little treat, like, oh, wow, like, wasn't expecting that. So it's one of those things where if you front load and if you willing to actually do it habitually and incessantly at the start, it pays off so much later. It becomes very easy. You're not putting in any more time, but you're still getting the benefit. But, you know, you have to actually do it at the start. Yep.